in first cut. Golly!
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round one recap for this week's PGA Championship. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hey, Greg.
Hey, boys. I hope it's going well down there, and I certainly hope you enjoyed the first round of this tournament as much as I did from home. It's just a spectacular day out there. I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Kyle Porter is also here, and he is sitting, he's sitting right there in the box next to me.
I'll get in Rick's shot by the end of this spot. It was a fun day. We were running around a bunch. We were on HQ and TV for most of the day. Got to get out a little bit to see some of the heavy hitters, but it was I thought it was an eventful day one, but I thought more importantly, it set us up for the next 3 days really, really nicely. There's some really good storylines at the top, and I mean, this board right now, guys, it's just sick. It's tremendous.
Yeah, we'll get into the specifics and the names and stuff, but Greg, we've got a guy with a 3-shot lead who's trying to get his first major championship. We've got a guy who's got 2 majors in his first 19 or 20 starts. We've got a guy trying to end a 10-year drought. We've got the number 1 player in the world lurking, and then like any other story that you want, your defending champion is in the mix. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the big 3 heading into this week with Rory, Scheffler, and Brooks. They've all positioned themselves nicely. I think they all have things to improve on, which we can dive into, but they are certainly in the mix. And then you have a couple of other guys looking for their first major who play great golf sitting up on top, and they really look like they're going to be a challenge to catch. And maybe that big 3 heading into this week, like you were saying, Rick, who's the forgotten guy? I know he wasn't forgotten, but our leader is looking pretty stout right now.
Yeah, our leader is looking pretty stout. We'll get to him in just a moment. But before we do, KP, let's talk golf course / atmosphere. When we rolled up this morning and our first HQ hit was 9 a.m. We were here before that, obviously. And there was kind of set. It took us a little bit longer to get in than we thought. But there was a sense that the scoring was going to be good today.
Yeah, we saw some of the first shots we saw were on television because we went straight to being on camera on set, and you see some of the pitch marks and you're like, oh, okay. Like that's different than maybe what we normally see at a major championship. And that to me was kind of the main thing because, and Greg can talk about this and attest to this better probably than I can, but if you're not worried about the ball running out, either that much in the fairway or on the greens with how wet and soft they are, then it becomes, if you're dialed, it's kind of a dartboard, right? And that's what we saw for most of the day. And I think early on we said, I mean, on the drive over, I said, Rory's going to shoot 64. And he certainly could have. He hits the ball in the water on 18, could have shot probably 65, was probably would have been a great score for him. But Xander went and shot 62, and it wasn't shocking. It's a bigger ballpark than LACC where he did it last year, but just because of how soft it was and how, deep those pitch marks were, it was not super surprising that he went out and did that.
And Greg, it's to speak to that a little bit more. We'd love to get your thoughts. There's probably, I think tomorrow is going to be interesting, depending on how much rain we actually do get tomorrow. I wonder how firm, how fast, or if this will kind of be similar for the rest of the week.
I'm expecting it to be similar throughout the week, with rain in the forecast on Saturday as well. It seems like there's even slight chances on Sunday, which, that it can go a couple different ways. One, if it rains while they're playing, that gets difficult. If it's on and off rain, it leads to very, very good scoring opportunities. Because, Kyle, you hit the nail on the head. Even though it's a really big ballpark, even though it's really long, that's not the thing that challenges PGA Tour players. They are so dialed into how far they need to land the ball. And if they're coming, especially from the fairway, which is more likely when it's soft like this, well, all of a sudden they can hit they can hit 5, 6, 7 irons really close to the flag, and it's really hard to hide hole location when the greens are soft like this. So, I mean, it seems to happen every time in a major where you have a long course. It's going to be wet. We think that makes it more difficult, but it certainly does not.
Forecast for showers overnight and then starting around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Basically a 50 to 60% chance of rain every hour. So, add it up. We probably won't avoid it all. We see just kind of like, and it even sprinkled for times today. It got a little cloudy at times. So it's weird. And I don't know if anything is set in stone. KP, there were a lot of people here early. I mean, this place filled up very early. Louisville is coming out to Valhalla. I can't imagine what it's going to be like over the course of the next couple of days.
I thought the crowds were tremendous. I was with the Koepka, who was he with? Spieth group. And I think Max Homa was in that group as well.
Yeah,
and it was kind of electric. And it was, I mean, I was with them when Brooks makes the 3 on 7 and then he makes a 2 on 8. So they had, things to cheer about, but it was really good. I really liked it. One other point I had on the rain and the weather is, and I said this on HQ today, but I don't like, how much softer can it get? I think it was sort of the point that I was making, especially on the greens. Now, I think the rain and the moisture could affect the rough, and it could affect the way the ball interacts with the club face, which could be problematic. But in terms of just making it a bigger, sloggier course, I don't know that it's really going to have that outsized of an effect compared to what we saw on Thursday.
It is interesting, Greg, because the golf course, especially the fairways, drain beautifully. I mean, those are in perfect shape. You're still getting some pretty decent rollout. I do not worry, I don't really care, but I do think that a wet kind of thick rough will force these guys to judge lies, add in variables like how is water in between my club face and the ball going to affect it? How is potentially an active rain going to change my distances? That's the kind of variables that I think we're going to get over the course of the next week.
I agree. An active rain absolutely makes it more difficult. Wet rough. We saw wet rough this morning. There was a lot of dew on the ground, a lot of moisture in the rough, and it can definitely play a challenge, especially when you get some of those longer shots. But I just don't really believe that rough in total is that much of a prohibitor for these guys. I mean, it might be for some, and it might thin out this field, but I don't think it's going to make the scores slow down scoring. I mean, it may slow down. I'm not saying we're going to see a 62 every day, but it tends not to be that big of an effect. So I think active rain is the biggest thing that is the biggest challenge left for this golf course. The other thing that can happen as well is when the greens get really soft, they tend to get chewed up a lot more. And I know you can fix spike marks, but there's a point where there's so many, your players will be dealing with that as well. So those would be the two biggest effects of rain. In the fairway, there's hardly any effect other than you might have a longer shot in because, well, they'll go to lift, clean, and place if it's too wet. So yeah, I think we're in for a birdie fest for the rest of the week.
Okay. Well, it was certainly a birdie fest for one guy on Thursday. We will discuss him and the rest of this board. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
From the world of Sonic the Hedgehog, is there anyone stronger?
No.
Tougher?
No.
Hungrier?
Grapes was an interesting choice for someone who doesn't use fingers.
Knuckles, now streaming only on Paramount Plus.
And we're back, boys. I'm in a pickle. We usually start with somebody who went out in the early wave and played really well. I usually round it out with the guy who's on the top of the leaderboard at the end, but same guy. So let's just jump right into this. The fourth group out, 7:53, delayed for 10 minutes. That's 8:03, was Xander Schauffele. And I was having a little bit of deja vu here, KP, because we saw Xander run out to an early lead last year at LACC, have a historic round. We saw him run out to an early lead last week at Quail Hollow, and this was phenomenal. A 9 under 62, bogey free, tons of threes on the card, and Xander has carved out a 3-shot lead.
Yeah, I think one of the common things you hear about Xander is, like from other pros, is, hey, you guys don't understand, you guys being the media and fans, you guys don't understand how good he is, right? I've heard Phil say that. I've heard Max Homa say that. I've heard, actually, Justin Thomas kind of alluded to it today. Like, dude, this guy's unbelievable. And what Thursday's round made me think of is almost like what those guys see all the time in practice rounds of like, hey, Xander made 9 birdies today. Xander made 11 birdies today. Xander made 7 birdies today. That is it. It almost, I'm not saying it was played with the intensity of a practice round. It felt like it was played with the freedom of a practice round, which is what you want at a major championship if you're one of the top contenders, right? So I thought it was obviously incredibly impressive, but like we've talked about, it's not about round 1 or round 2 with him. You know, I was looking at Data Golf's pressure stat earlier. So whenever he enters round 3 and 4 in the top 3 on the leaderboard, he performs a little worse than expected. So not worse than field average necessarily, but worse than you would expect him to play based on how he's playing. There's a bunch of different factors that kind of go into that. But he plays worse than expected when he's in that top 3 on Saturday and Sunday. And that's the thing to like prepare yourself for over the next 3 days.
That 62, Greg, ties the lowest round in men's major championship history. It was in vintage Xander style. He was inside the top 20 in each of the 4 strokes gained categories. So he was very well-rounded throughout the bag. This was as good as it gets.
Yes. One thing that Kerry Haig and the PGA Championship always does is they allow good shots to be rewarded, and they tend to punish or try to punish poor shots. And when you don't hit any bad shots, there's not a whole lot of punishment going on. And that's what Xander did tee to green in round 1. I mean, 12 of 14 fairways is absolutely spectacular. And that allowed him to hit his numbers into greens and set himself up with a lot of birdie putts. He's constantly playing offense from that position. And then you look at what he did on the greens. I mean, this was his 3rd best putting performance of his entire career, gaining nearly 4.2 strokes putting. But the longest putt he made was 17 feet. So it was really consistent, solid putting in that, 10 to 15 foot range throughout the entire round, which is a testament to just his general skill that you were mentioning earlier, Kyle.
The morning wave was jam-packed, boys. Xander and Rory and Viktor and all these other guys. So let's go to Rory McIlroy. And this was not a vintage Rory McIlroy round, KP. It was a 5 under 66 that featured a 3-hole birdie streak on his second 9, 5, 6, and 7 as he was wrapping up his round. But this didn't necessarily look like the Rory we normally see, did it?
No, it didn't. And before I forget, because I've been meaning to ask you this all day, or at least for the last couple hours, I wanted to ask you on HQ, but Crooked Joe Musso wouldn't let me get a question in. Would you rather have for the rest, if I gave you for the rest of the week, Rory and Xander or Scottie and Brooks, who are you taking?
Rory and Xander or Scottie and Brooks. I'm taking Rory and Xander. I've got 9 under and 5 under. And then 4 under and 4 under. I know one of them is Scottie. No, I'm taking Xander and Rory.
Really?
Yeah.
Greg?
I'm not. I'm taking Brooks and Scottie all day.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, do you like? There's this Xander.
You almost said, "Do you understand?"
I know. My wife would have killed me because she hates that. That's like I know.
Now, children, gather around.
My shot caller zapped me on that one, and I caught myself.
It's great.
if Xander were to win this week, we'd be like, well, yeah, of course, he should be a major champion. Like, I don't know. We'd look back in 10 years, and I think we would forget all the close calls, and all of that would go away.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it works. Like, that's Phil's story. I mean, think about Phil, right? Until he was 33 years old, that was his story. Oh, can't win. He can't win now. I think Xander's is a little different in that it kind of extends to regular events as well. Phil won plenty of regular tour events, but you're totally right, Rick. And I think we're looking at this going forward, which is the only way to look at it. And it's impossible to look at it looking backwards until 5-10 years from now. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Xander. I don't know. I just know that Brooks is destructive and Scottie seems to win every tournament he tees it up at. I think I would take those two over Rory and Xander.
Before we get back to Rory, I had something I've been meaning to tell you guys that I forgot about. So I was walking back to the media center. I was walking past 17 green to 18 tee, and I heard a voice that seemed like it was coming from the heavens that just said,
Jim Nance?
No. It said, freaking first cut. And it came from above me. And I was like, where is that coming from? And I look up, and the top row of the grandstand behind 17 green, some guys giving me the wave. And I'm like, let's go. Like, that's so funny. And it sounded awesome. Like it was coming from the man upstairs. So it was
that's tremendous. To get back to the Rory round, 5 under 66, watch his group a little bit, didn't get out a ton with them, saw some of his front nine on the golf course. It was weird. You know, if you'd have told me 12 hours ago, Rory's going to finish 112th in strokes gained off the tee, which is, I think that's close to where he finished.
134.
Yeah.
134?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Last time I looked, he was 115 or something. I would have said he shot 73 and he's out. But I think the word that he used after the round was scrappy. And I thought that was apropos because he hit some, I don't know how it came across on TV, Greg, but when I was out there watching, he hit some really good, kind of goofy, sometimes flighted wedges that led to birdie opportunities. And that's the thing that I don't know, maybe you chalk that up to just a soft, easy golf course that he's dominated in the past, but that's the thing he hasn't done. I went back and looked, guys, at his opening rounds from 2015 to 2021. So that's 26 opening rounds. He missed the 2015 Open, and there wasn't a 2020 Open. He only had 5 opening rounds in the 60s. And in the last 3 years, so 10 majors, 2022, 23, and 24, he's had 5 opening rounds in the 60s. So he's had as many opening rounds in the 60s the last 3 years as he did the previous 7 before that, which is pretty crazy. And it's what we've always asked him to do. Hey, stay in it on a Thursday, right? Stay in it on the first 2 days. Your baseline is good enough that on Sunday you're going to be there. And that's what he did on Thursday. And I think that's really, I don't know if impressive is the right word, but I found it admirable that he really kept himself in the tournament with his irons and with his short game to the point where you're like, he could find a flow and he could be the one shooting 62 on Friday or Saturday.
I wanted to read this because you mentioned the wedges, and Josh always puts a couple of notes in our rundown, producer Josh. And this is what he said about Rory. Wedges were really good. Hit the flag stick multiple times. Putter was good as well. And anytime you're talking about Rory McIlroy hitting the flag stick multiple times, which is true, that's a really good sign. And I don't think that's a result of the conditions. It's not a matter of just soft conditions. Rory's got his wedge play, his approach wedges starting on line, which is how you hit the flag stick multiple times. And he's getting the distance right. And that's a sign of the technical work that he did with Butch Harmon a couple months ago, or after the Masters, or before the Masters, actually. And it's working. And there's real technique, real effort put into that, and he's leaning on it this week. And lastly, the short game. The short game was the thing in 2012 when he's winning at Kiowa, 2014 here. It's not like he was the best short game player in the world, but when he had the lead and he was cruising and he missed a green, I always remember feeling like, oh no, this is when it starts to go the other way. And he'd chip it to 2 feet. He'd knock it stiff. And that allows him this weekend to get one day where all of a sudden he's driving it like Rory drives it, a lot better than today, and that 66 turns into 64. And he runs away.
Well, I mean, you see signs of it, right? The thing about the Ryder Cup, the shot, the pitch shot he hit there last year that had Sepp Straka giggling like one of my kids. His short game can be really special, like really, really good. And he was like producer Josh just threw in here. He was first in the field in strokes gained around the green. He chipped in on Thursday. I think it was on 7, I want to say, for birdie.
6.
Was it 6? Okay. And yeah, I thought that he did the things that we've been asking him to do. And I'm curious about how much of that was like, hey, I have confidence that I don't have to worry about the thing you've talked about with him, Greg, is like his swing speed is so great and his path is so steep that it can lead to so much spin and an inability to control it. So I'm curious about how much of his approach play is just confidence that the ball's not really going anywhere or not like it usually would at a major championship, because that was true on Thursday. And it seemed like it led to more confident, precise approach shots from him than normal.
The tendency for Rory is to get a little underneath it. Club gets behind him. He starts it to the right and draws it. And then it's difficult to control that. So it draws too much or it doesn't draw enough. And you got the two-way miss. But when he's, has the club out in front of him the way he does now, all of a sudden it launches through the right window, it starts online and curves a whole lot less. And when the ball's curving less, that also helps with distance control. One of the reasons why Scottie Scheffler is so dialed in with his distance control is, he's got the club in front of him on the way down. It starts online. And that's what we're seeing out of Rory right now.
Well, I thought I was talking to Sean Zock, golf.com earlier, and he made a great point that Rory hit what's the 256 hole, the par 3?
14.
He had a draw into that hole to a right pin. And it's not a shot that you hit if the ball's kind of jumping and running and bounding all over the place, right? But if it sticks, you can maybe afford more to hit that shot because you're not worried about it kind of running away from that pin. Normally you would have to hit a fade in there. Like the draw would be too tiny of a landing spot to hit. And he's able to just kind of hit his stock shot more often because the ball isn't running and bounding and jumping all over the place. I thought that was an interesting point. I probably don't know enough about all of that to say whether that's true or not, but it seemed like a kind of an interesting point about this golf course. It's a little bit different than other major championships.
5 under 66. Sorry, Greg, I'm going to move us along.
Go ahead.
5 under 66 for Rory McIlroy. He is 4 shots off the lead, just 1 shot off of second place. We are going to continue this conversation because there are a lot more big names lurking, some late action here at Valhalla. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
And we're back. We are entering first cut after dark territory. The sun has set over Valhalla. And Greg, one of the biggest X factors before the week started was the reigning FedEx Cup champion, Viktor Hovland, whose 2024, let's be clear, has been miserable. And now he has confirmed he is back with Joe Mayo. If you look at his around the green stats for just one round. It's 1.2 to the positive, 23rd around the greens. Is it that simple?
Well, look, Joe Mayo is extremely smart, and he understands the system, right? I mean, he's like a genius. And so the other thing about Viktor, particularly, is he seems to have an ability to, like things that he works on are pretty sticky, and sometimes it doesn't click for him. But when you go back to your old coach, which Collin Morikawa, by the way, has gone back to Rick Sessinghouse as well. You're coming home. You're coming back to something that you're familiar with, and it's a lot easier and a lot quicker for that to work. So sometimes new coaches, it's a really tough situation to be in. The information's presented a little differently. It takes time to learn how to communicate that information. But when you go back to a coach that has proven that his stuff works for you, it's a really quick transition. But as for this round today from Viktor, the short game, quite frankly, kept this round together, right? It was a little streaky. He hit some loose iron shots, especially hit some good ones, but some loose ones, and was able to piece it together with just short game. So I think that was phenomenal.
The 3 under 68 was hot out of the gates, KP. 3 birdies in his first 4 holes. He did give one back on that long par 3 14th, but this was I don't want to say it was needed, but this has got to feel good when he lays his head down tonight. It's been a long season.
Well, yeah, I mean, two things. One, I tweeted this early in the round, but he pulled out of a $20 million event like 4 weeks ago because he couldn't hit the ball, and then he was leading the PGA early on, and it's just like that's maddening as a top player, right? You're just like, this game is so stupid, it's so dumb. I think somebody pointed out to me, hey, he was 5 under at Augusta National, right? So it's not as if, and Trevor Ullman was tweeted about this as well. It might be close. I think an interesting question, and maybe he got asked this and I just didn't see it, is like, hey, how close are you? Like, is it a week away? And maybe he doesn't even know, but is it 6 months away? I think it's maybe a little bit closer than perhaps we've been giving it credit for when it comes to Viktor Hovland.
They are piling up in second. There are 3 guys tied for second right now: Mark Hubbard, Sahith Theegala, and Tony Finau. This is a guy that, if you've been listening to the first cut, you have heard his name come out of Greg's mouth basically on a weekly basis. This was a bogey-free 65. This, I'm assuming, in your opinion, Greg, I don't want to speak for you, that this has been brewing. What did you see from Tony on Thursday?
Well, I thought it was brewing leading into the Masters, so that it seemed to cool off. And he really wasn't on my short list heading into this week. But that being said, we see the iron play that he had early in the year, that led to a great run at the Houston Open, that led to my backing of him at the Masters. That kind of iron performance was back on. He was a little loose off the tee, hit some squirrely tee shots, even some squirrely ones that found the fairway. Like, I think on 7, that split fairway, I think he was aiming for the left fairway and sliced it to the right fairway. I can't confirm that, but that's what it looked like to me. But that being said, he also had a phenomenal day on the greens. He gains 3.387 strokes putt-in. It's, a top 30 putt-in round for his entire career. The last time he gained 3 strokes putt-in was the first round at the Houston Open. So that's a really good sign for Tony Finau. He hasn't been able to string together multiple great putt-in rounds like this year. So I'm very curious to see what we're going to get going forward with him on the greens. But the iron play, hitting 16 of 18 greens, striking the ball like he did even out of the rough, was absolutely a good sign.
KP, let's put a bow on the morning wave here with the big cat. And he certainly proved me wrong. It was a 1/72, but it was a lot better than that for a long time. He got off to a slow start. He made par on the par 5 10th, his first hole. He made bogey on 11. Then he made a really good par save on 12. He made like an 11-footer, which kind of sparked this round a little bit. And he played the middle, what's that, 14 holes at
1 under?
1 under? Yeah, I'm trying to do the math real quick. And then he closed with 2 straight bogeys to post the 1 over. So what did you make of this round out of the big cat here?
Well, I thought I didn't watch a lot late. I watched some early, and it could have gotten away from him. I mean, it was not very good from tee to green early, and his short game was just keeping him in it. He made a couple long putts, hit some really nifty, creative, short pitch shots and chips and things of that nature. I mean, it is what we thought it is, or it was what we thought it was, right? He's just not going to be as good as the top players in the game from tee to green. He just has no chance of winning this golf tournament. Like none, zero. Like he cannot come out and compete with Scottie Scheffler in the condition that he's in and having no competitive reps. He just can't. Now, you can make the cut, which is not nothing and pretty interesting, but there's a big difference between making the cut and contending to win the tournament. And I think we need to start drawing that distinction more clearly. So yeah, short game kept him in it. No chance to win. It'd be cool if you made the cut on Friday.
1/72. That's a tie for 85th. Even par is a tie for 65th. Greg, another Friday cut sweat coming for Tiger.
Yeah, and it's getting, they're fun to watch, and it's amazing that he's able to piece rounds like this together. But to Kyle's point, it really makes me wonder what like he said, I left a few out there. I didn't want to finish that way, but like, what does the great Tiger Woods round these days look like? And unfortunately, I'm getting the sense that it looks like what we saw today, which does not compete with Xander Schauffele's and Scottie Scheffler's and Wyndham Clark, whoever it is that decides to pop up and play their best. It just doesn't match up. And so I think it's going to be really hard for Tiger to put it all together. That being said, I loved what I saw with him on the greens today. I think that's really the key. That is the key piece for him to play the veteran style of game, where I'm going to miss it in the right spots. I'm going to kind of scrap it around a little bit. And when I miss, I'm not short-siding myself. Well, if you're going to play that style, you got to be really sharp on the greens. And he made a lot of those mid-range putts to save par, keep himself in it, keep the momentum going. And I did think that was a positive sign.
The morning wave had objectively just more big names, guys that were near the top of the betting board, things of that nature. But the afternoon wave did not let up. In fact, it started with a bang. KP, the number 1 player in the world, back in action for the first time as a father, for the first time in a couple of weeks. Scottie Scheffler hits the fairway on number 1 and proceeds to hole out from 167 yards for eagle. It kind of sent some shockwaves through the golf course. Scottie saying, "Hey, I'm back. Don't forget about me."
Yeah, we back up. We're ready to roll. It was crazy. We were about to go on live, or we were in a break on live television, and Joe Musso jumps in and says Scottie just made a 2 at the first. He just holed out at the first for 2. And I thought he was joking, honestly. Like, oh yeah, Scottie's back at it. He holed out for 2 at the first. It was completely absurd. You and I were talking about his round at the end of it. I thought he was fine. I thought it was kind of just middle of the road, what he needed to do, which is crazy, right? When you've come to have expectations that 67 to open a major is kind of the I don't know if it's the floor, but you're gaining 4.5 strokes on the field, and that's kind of like ho hum. You're in a pretty like special stratosphere when that's happening. missed a couple of putts. Could have been 65, could have been, something 65, 66, something in that range. But I think he's just kind of right where he needs to. Him and Koepka are just right where they need to be right now going into Friday.
Oh, we didn't talk about Koepka.
Of course.
Now he's going to win. Now we've offended him.
Yeah, he's going to mention this moment on Sunday after he wins.
Oh crap. Okay, we'll get to Brooks here in a second. Let's put a bow on Scottie Scheffler. So, Greg, this was a phenomenal tee to green day. 4th off the tee, 27th on approach, 10th around the green. He did, as Kyle mentioned, missed a couple of shorties. Although I think the one, maybe not all of them, but the ones that I saw were for birdie. I don't know if he missed a short putt. I think he had a 3 putt that was pretty.
Yeah, that was at 14.
Okay, so the 3 putt there. So he loses a stroke with the putter, but this is him just easing into this thing.
Well, that's exactly right. He's easing into it. I didn't think it was a spectacular tee to green performance. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was great. I think there's a lot of strokes gain benefit to the hole out on number 1. Which was a great shot that he could hit at any time. The fact that it went in, perhaps a little bit of luck involved there. I thought it was just so-so. I mean, he hit a couple shots that he wanted to fade that didn't fade. Missed a couple more greens than he probably should have based on where he drove the ball. It was okay. And that's exactly the point. That's the scariest thing. This was... Like, I mean, I think I saw him yawn in the middle of the round. It's just unbelievable to watch because this looks like the floor. I mean, I don't know how he shoots a higher number. It's the floor, and it's special to watch. Now, one other thing before we get to Brooks, because we have to. You know who the last person to hole out in their first shot in a major for Eagle?
Wyndham.
Yeah, last year's U.S. Open. Scottie was told. Scottie knows that now too.
Wyndham hold out on 1 last year?
He might have started on 10, but yeah.
I don't remember that.
I don't either, but I saw it today.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. That's pretty good. And he went on to win. That was at LACC.
Yeah.
Were you asking?
Well, no. I the last person to hole out on their first hole and win, or just do it in general.
No, just do it in general.
Okay.
But
so
you haven't had many.
The last guy who did
right.
it then won.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it didn't happen at the Open or the Masters.
God. Okay. Cool. Brooks Koepka. I'm sorry that we forgot. This was actually my favorite round. I said that earlier, KP. This was a perfectly patient, a perfectly executed major championship round. He did not panic when he had opportunities that went begging early. He stayed the course. He stayed to strategy. And then you saw it in person. I didn't see it. He hit a shot on 7. That's well until Scottie holed out from 168 yards was probably the shot of the day.
Yeah, it was, and it kind of took the breath away of the crowd that was on 7. There was, it wasn't even a cheer; it was like a gasp. It was like, holy! I think it was 230 to 2 feet, 3 feet, something like that. Makes a 3 there, follows it up with a 2 on 8. He said after his round, he talked a lot about patience. And he said his caddy was talking to him all day. Ricky Elliott was talking to him all day. Be patient, stay patient. He's like, I try to stay patient at majors and just kind of let the just go on a run, just have the run, basically let the run come to me is what he was saying. Right. And this is what he does. I think the thing that I took away from Thursday, and this is not necessarily just a Thursday specific takeaway, but it's a general takeaway with Brooks at majors, is he's got he's not a humble person in general, but he has a lot of humility in the way that he plays these major championships. Because even on 7, he's like, I wasn't trying to hit at that. He goes, obviously I was not hitting at that flag. Right. because you have water up the left there, and it was a left pin. Is that right, Greg? Am I saying that right?
It's short. Kind of the green kind of angles from or the front edge where there's water angles from front right up to back left, and
But
so
you don't-
it's a back left pin, but it's close to the water.
You don't want to short side yourself over there, and you just get into it's kind of a mess. He goes, I'm trying to pound the middle of the green, and that's what happens when you hit it at the middle of the green. This is the advice that you and I should take, Rick, when we go play. When you hit the middle of the green, you hit it. Sometimes you end up 2 feet from the pin. And I was so impressed by his patience, by his kind of humility in the way that he plays. Of like, hey, I'm playing away from pins. I'm trying to hit middle of the green, even on Thursday at a major championship on a really soft golf course. I think that's super impressive, and it's the reason he's going for his 6th major championship this weekend.
Yeah, if you're like a 5 handicap or worse, you just take the yardage to the middle of the green, add 5 yards, and hit at that as your target. Like,
it's made me better. I've started doing that.
Yeah, don't even look at the pin. Just take it out. Don't do it. Greg, this Brooks Koepka round, it went from, okay, he's treading water. I wonder if he's too far back because Xander's extending, to, of course, another PGA Championship. Brooks is in the mix. He's lurking and within arm's reach.
There were a couple moments on his first 9 where he had some real good birdie looks and missed them. And I'm thinking, okay, here Brooks is about to go on a run because he's hitting it really well. You could tell he's hitting it really solid, hitting it really well. And he missed a great look at 13, missed a great look at, I believe it was 15 as well. That makes bogey at 17. And that shot into 7 kept him in the tournament. The putt at 8 kept him in the tournament because while he hit it well, he did not putt very well. And he lost strokes putting. Even with that, really, it probably would have been worse. He was 96th in the field in strokes gained putting. It probably would have been worse if it weren't for that that long one he made at 8. So this is kind of scary for the rest of the field because he's just positioned himself. And he knows how to play these things, as Kyle wisely stated.
The 2 guys that kind of look like they have the most juice to squeeze out of Friday are probably Rory and Brooks. So it'll be interesting to see what they are able to do. KP, we were coming in with some of the final groups up 17 and 18 there, and one of them was Collin Morikawa. And when we were with him on 18, it was like, he's at what? What's the number that he's at? Because he was 2 over early. He was 2 over through 5. Yeah. And then he played his final 13 holes at 7 under. That includes a birdie streak on 6, 7, and 8, another birdie streak on 12, 13, and 14, and then he caps it off with a birdie on 18 to post the 5 under 66. And, it's a small major championship career, but it is awesome.
It is. And I think that, it's interesting because it's a big ballpark. So your first thought doesn't necessarily go to Collin Morikawa, even though he's, Harding Park is not, I wasn't there, but from what I understand, it's not tiny. It's not small. But I think the thing that he was so locked in with his approach play, like he was just hitting every spot on the 2 turkeys that he had, the 3 birdie streaks.
Nice.
And it made you think like, yeah, target golf, Collin Morikawa, dartboard, of course, and I think if he can keep it out of the rough, keep it in the fairway, he can go whenever the greens are that soft and that receptive. So that was kind of my, you said on HQ, I don't know what to expect. That was kind of my takeaway from today of like, oh yeah, if it's a dartboard, Morikawa is pretty good at throwing darts.
The other thing he did was when he didn't throw darts, because this wasn't like Scottie Scheffler surgical for 18 holes. There were those birdie streaks that you mentioned, Kyle, but there were some scrappy iron shots too, and he scrambled really well. I mean, he's 6 of 8 scrambling. He missed 8 greens, and was able to save it. He gained over 2.5 strokes putting. He was 10th in the field on the greens. That's a very dangerous combo. And as he keeps getting these shots, you look at him like a 3-point shooter. The more he's shooting from the fairway, eventually he's going to start knocking some flags out of the greens, out of the hole. And that's what he did in this round. And that's why he's really dangerous, because he doesn't need to, he doesn't need to be in perfect form. He just, a couple of those shots start going his way, he gets confident and he can get on a pretty serious run.
Yeah.
Maybe the most entertaining, exciting, firecracker-like round of the day, or at least of the afternoon, was Jon Rahm. And this was ugly. The first 6 holes, he made 4 bogeys. He was 4 over through 6. It included a couple of 3 putts. It included short-sided shots. It included double crosses. It included snap hooks and just everything that you could possibly imagine. And Greg, he chipped away at it. A birdie at 7, a birdie at 10. Gave one back at 11. Birdies at 13, 14, 17, and 18. He goes from 4 over through 6 to 1 under through 18 holes. He is in a tie for 47th. He is not within striking distance of the top of the board, but I mean, there looked like he was gonna finish dead last, and he was gonna be going home on Friday night.
Well, he couldn't make anything. He did not have control of his start line. He looked like, I mean, I almost thought he was just gonna quit. Like, I'm walking off the course. He was really frustrated. Had a pretty nice club throw as well. And then all of a sudden, a wedge shot at 13 nearly goes in. And the making birdie at 7 and 10, the par 5s, really helps, but it doesn't generate the momentum. You should make birdie on those holes. They probably felt like pars to him. Nearly holes out on 13. I mean, it rolled over the edge of the hole. And 14 is such a good birdie. It's ridiculous. And he just hit a great shot in there. And then he gets 17 and 18, and he's still probably, he's quite a ways back. But since it's Jon Rahm, I know, Rick, you were thrilled about that finish.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much Jon Rahm one and done and exposure everywhere. And the first update that I got out of him was he's 3 over and he's dead behind the green on 6, and I'm in shambles. So for him to claw it back to respectable and beat the field average, I'm thrilled. KP, Jon Rahm is spicy. We know that. Where's his emotions on his sleeve? He's fiery, et cetera, et cetera. It's different, man. He was like, the fuse had already been lit before he teed off, and he is just ready to explode at any moment.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. I mean, if I said I got a little spicy on HQ. I said if you don't notice what's going on with Rahm and that it's not physical, it's not his play, it's very mental and emotional, then you're just being willfully ignorant of reality. You're just being delusional, right? At this point, if you can still deny that there's something going on that I think is related to, I don't know how you could think that it's not related to his move to live golf, right? And we saw it at the Masters. He had that weird kind of diatribe this week about how he's still a PGA Tour player, and it's like, I don't know what reality you're living in, but there's just been a lot of odd stuff, and to me, it is led to, or it's emblematic of his emotional and mental state, which is not where it needs to be to win a major championship. So it's not even that you mentioned, yeah, he didn't play that great at the Masters. I don't even care about that. That to me is not necessarily a reason to not pick Jon Rahm or to not think that he's going to play well. To me, it's everything else. It's the mental and emotional state that is just kind of unstable seemingly right now.
Yeah, it was, a bad shot, and yeah, it was tough. Did claw it back under par. Josh, do we have the betting board? Do we have the favorites for?
Can we? Oh, well, I was gonna guess.
Dang.
I haven't looked yet. I'm just looking at your face, Rick. If we can take it away, I'll okay. I'm gonna say Xander's the favorite, and he's like 3-1. I'm gonna say Rory's second at 4-1. I'll say Brooks is. I'll say it's Xander, Rory, Brooks, and Scottie, and then 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. You're off to a good start here. So Xander is the favorite plus 240. Rory
Brooks at 12 is so disrespectful.
Rory is 5-1. You had him at 4. That's where Scottie Scheffler is. So Xander's plus 240, Scottie plus 400, Rory plus 500, Brooks, Koepka.
That's disrespectful.
12-1. That'll be bulletin board material at Koepka Airbnb tonight. Collin Morikawa is 14-1, Sahith 20, Tony Finau 25, Bryson at 35, Max Homa at 40. Everybody else longer. Why KP? Why disrespect?
Why are the books disrespectful to Brooks?
Yes.
I don't know, man. How many does he have to win?
He's 5 shots off the lead.
So is Scott.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to start something here.
Rory's 4-back. I mean, it just like, would you rather have Brooks at 5-back or Rory at 4-back?
I mean, Rory at 4-back, but I would rather. I don't think that Rory is 2.5 times as likely to beat Brooks with a 1-shot lead.
I mean, what evidence do we have that Rory at 4-back is a better bet than Brooks at 5-back at a PGA Championship?
None.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree. The number is pretty bad. But
it's been bad on him all week.
Yeah.
Leading into it, it was bad. His DraftKings pricing is disrespectful. It was all disrespect.
Give me Bryson at 35, by the way.
He seems like he's grinding quite a bit this week.
Yeah, which I don't love, but I like the 35.
The Brooks thing's interesting, but there's no. Joe, we don't have to look that far.
Do you like a Joe Musso drop in on the show? There he is. Get us in the solo.
First got family. First got family.
Oh, there's Kyle.
Wait. The power of podcasting.
Very good.
Wow.
We've got a lot that's gonna happen tomorrow. We're gonna shake this bad boy up. What are we most looking forward to tomorrow, KP?
We are most looking forward to the cream rising to the top. I think this board is 2021 Torrey Pines-ish U.S. Open, a pile up of sports cars, Lamborghinis only, and I think you're going to get a board going into the weekend that's pretty electric. And I think the crowds are going to show up on Saturday, Sunday for we said going into the week, there's only 3 storylines, Brooks, Rory, and Scottie Scheffler. And guess what? They're all 4 or 5. They're all 4 under or better. And that's sweet. That's awesome. And I think you're going to only see those types of guys separate as the week goes on.
Greg, what are we most looking forward to tomorrow?
Well, it's a very similar line of thinking. I was going to say the Scottie Scheffler 64 tomorrow morning. That might be a little aggressive.
No, call it. Call your shot.
I'm going to stick with it. Yeah, I'll stick with it.
What time are they out? They are out. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, so they are out at 8:48 in the morning. So here's the schedule for tomorrow. Joe Musso just delivered this to me. So just turn your dials to CBS Sports HQ and CBS Sports Network and do not touch them, because you will not need to change it, because you'll be getting coverage essentially around the clock. 9 a.m. Eastern time. That's the morning buzz. You'll see our buzzing faces. Noon. That's your midday update. We are doing the hour-long first cut on CBS Sports Network at 2 p.m. That's an hour-long show. We'll be right back after that on Spotlight at 3 o'clock. We'll be trending at 4. There's another Spotlight hit at 4:30. There's another trending hit at 5. Joe is, I think, talking to, I don't want to spoil it, I thought it was Michael Breed, Greg.
Yeah, could be.
At 7. Yeah. And they do a great job. And then we'll be doing the post round 8 o'clock approximately, and then we will be podding. After that, we are going wire to wire on Friday. So just set your dial, don't look back, and Greg, bend the knee to Joe Musso, who is your Travelers Championship Pro-Am winner.
Yeah, I'm not coming over Monday, Joe. It still hurts too soon.
We played Golden Hour golf last night. Joe's you're right, he's a sandbagger.
Yeah, I know. Always has been.
Yeah. Always has been. Anything else, boys?
I think we should talk more about who won that match last night.
Dude, okay, so very quickly. It was me and Joe versus Kyle and Josh. And I birdied the first two.
I thought Rick was going to shoot 67.
I had like a 5-foot birdie putt on 3, and as Mark would say, my sphincter was about as tight as possible. Okay. I did not make that, and then Josh and KP rattled off like 4 in a row, turned it from 2 down to 2 up, and they never looked back. It was kind of a beatdown.
It's like Xander and Rory last week.
Yes, it felt like when the U.S. went up like 4-0 at that 2018 Ryder Cup at Paris, and then they just got their asses kicked the rest of the way.
Now, unfortunately for them, it's not for Josh and KP. It's not official because we ran out of light and we only got like 15 holes in. So
sure, you guys said it was official all day, and then it wasn't.
It was official through the first 3 holes, but
Yeah.
Things happen. All right. Again, we'll be back all day on Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get this home, and it looks like it is going to be thoroughbreds only. So it should be an absolute blast. Big thanks, producer Josh, who I can see the back of his head from here. Joe Musso, who is lurking somewhere around here. Kyle Porter, available at Kyle Porter CBS. Greg DuCharme at The Real GFD. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.